Pokemon Mystery Dungeon EOS hates me. Why, you may ask? Well, because I consider myself a chill guy. And as a chill guy, taking their dumb personality test, I get turned into a freaking Phanpy. And I would rather swim in Sharpedo-infested waters than do another playthrough with this dumb elephant. But if I was lonelier and had a little bit less friends, I would get turned into a Bulbasaur, which is objectively better. So today, we're ranking and breaking down the actual best starters in PMD EOS. Not based on nostalgia, not based on, ooh, he's my favorite little guy. These rankings are based on what actually matters in Mystery Dungeon. Let's start with the Pokemon that turns monster houses into slumber parties, Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is given to lonely men and docile women per the personality test. And to understand how Bulba plays in PMD, you really need to understand one move, Bullet Seed. If you've played the original PMD, you already know the legend. Bullet Seed was an absurdly broken, ranged, multi-hit, room-clearing nonsense. Chunsoft absolutely noticed this and responded in Explorers by nerfing its accuracy into the ground. And yet, it's still one of the best moves in the game. If you want something more reliable, Energy Ball is like the lamer cousin of Bullet Seed. It's more reliable, but I prefer to see green dots go burr and delete everything. And then there's Giga Drain, which gives Bulbasaur some great sustain. This move turns every enemy into a walking Oranberry. But pretty much every grass starter on this list learns these moves by level up or by TM. What sets Bulbasaur apart? Bulbasaur has one super unique trait. Bulbasaur is also poison, making it the only dual type Pokemon on this whole entire list, which is kind of crazy. It gets access to Stab, Sludge Bomb, which is absolutely enormous for coverage. Bulbasaur turns PMD into Call of Duty. It's all about bullets and bombs, baby. One warning though, do not use Toxic. PMD is about pace, and Toxic feels like watching paint dry compared to other moves. Besides his unique dual typing, Bulbasaur also has some phenomenal moves in his learn set, with the best one being Sleep Powder. Sleep Powder is Bulbasaur's biggest selling point, and frankly it's not even close. And much like my early YouTube videos, it puts everybody in the room to sleep. You technically learn it at level 15, but because Mystery Dungeon was programmed by a monkey, you can only learn one move per level. Poison Powder steals the slot first. That means you have to wait until Electivire's shop opens. As soon as that happens, immediately go back and relearn Sleep Powder. And once you do, never take it off. Sleep Powder plus Bullet Seed is a crazy combo. Sleep Powder puts enemies to sleep, and then Bullet Seed makes sure they sleep forever. Offensively, you get Razor Leaf at level 19. It's ranged and a physical move with a high crit rate. Basically Energy Ball's physical cousin, except for you don't even need a TM for it. There are a couple moves that sound good, but really aren't. Sweet Scent lowers evasion in the room. This is niche, but not valuable enough for a move slot. Synthesis heals you 50 HP. This can be useful in some fights such as Dialga, but it doesn't heal your partner, so often their health will be neglected. Now let's talk about evolution. Bulbasaur becomes Venusaur, and what do you get?
Nothing.
So there's little evolution upside. You get everything you'll ever need without evolving at all. Also, evolution movesets are not weighted heavily in the final rankings, as all story missions you have to enter with your unevolved starters. Final verdict? In PMT, offense tends to be king, and Bulbasaur's support set is less useful than other hyper-offensive starters, like the extreme offensive pressure of another grass starter on this list. But its utility, dual typing, and uniqueness still lands at a pretty high spot. Next up is Charmander, who per the personality test is brave if you answered female, or docile if you answered male. Charmander is a fire type, and fire types are simple, because when it comes down to fire moves, there's only one move that matters. One move that rules them all, and one move that you will be clicking until your thumbs hurt. Flamethrower. That's it. That's the fire type experience. It's ridiculously strong for a move with 12 power points. It turns out, Flamethrower in this game is as effective as a Flamethrower in real life. Charmander learns it at level 34, which is the second earliest of any fire-type Pokemon on this list. Aside from Flamethrower, Charmander also learns Fire Fang at a low level, which can both cringe and burn in this game, but why bite when Flamethrower? But let's talk about Charmander's real moneymaker, and it isn't even an attacking move. It's Smokescreen. Smokescreen gives enemies the Whiffer status, which makes you completely unhittable. Hit an enemy once, and they spend the next few turns swinging at the air like a cartoon character. The only downside is that Charmander learns it at level 10, while Cyndaquil starts with it. Still, once you have Smokescreen, it's amazing. Just maybe don't trust the AI with it if you value your life. Honestly, not trusting AI is probably just good advice in general. Smokescreen puts bosses on easy mode, and you can pair this with Scary Face to slow the opponent down and buy even more free turns. Lastly, Charmander learns Dragon Rage at level 16, which does an impressive 30 damage no matter what. This move can pretty much OHKO anything until Amp Plains, irregardless of type. We've talked a lot about Charmander's positives, now let's get into his biggest problem. He has very little non-fire offense. Charmander has a few options, unfortunately they're all melee, and they're all TMs listed here. These are solid moves, but every single one requires you to stand directly next to an enemy, which is not what you want to be doing in Mystery Dungeon. Once it evolves, Charmander unlocks a ridiculous move pool. But the best move by far is Heat Wave, which can hit a whole room, basically turning every enemy into Anakin at the end of episode 3. The final verdict, Charmander is a great choice. He has one of the highest special attacks of any starter, meaning it can make the most out of Stab Flamethrower. Charmander is a very, very good starter with one busted utility move. Next up, Squirtle, either quirky male or bold female. And much like Canada Dry, it sucks. Early game withdrawal can be pretty good. Almost all early game dungeon mobs are physical attackers, so raising defense is pretty valuable. Squirtle's best move is Bubble, which hits across the room, but when you have felt the power of Bullet Seed and Flamethrower, it feels like, well, a bubble. Mid to late game, it learns Protect, which is absolutely broken in PMD. Protect in this game lasts 5 turns, but it can miss, meaning it's pretty good, but offense often outclasses defense in PMD unless you're doing some sort of special challenge run. Now, to be fair, water types as a whole are eating pretty well in this game from a TM standpoint. Every water starter, including Squirtle, has access to the holy trinity of cracked TMs: Water Pulse, Ice Beam, and Blizzard. This trio does a lot of heavy lifting. Water Pulse is a fantastic ranged move with a chance to confuse enemies, which is always valuable. It is also one of the most common TMs in the game. I feel like I rarely have a run where I don't run into this move. Ice Beam is just raw power, great damage, great reliability, no complaints. And then there's Blizzard. In the original Mystery Dungeon, Blizzard was a bad melee move. In Explorers, Chunsoft turned it from a Blizzard to Nuclear Winter. Blizzard now hits the whole room. The power stayed absurdly high, and it has a chance to freeze on every hit. Additionally, the Blizzard TM becomes available in the Kickdown shop right after the expedition and before the Amp Plains fight, making this a free answer to the Manectric gang if you chose a water starter. But the issue is all water types on this list learn these moves. Outside of those 3 TMs, Squirtle has no sauce of his own. So Squirtle's entire game plan is basically, please find Waterfalls, please find Ice Beam. If you don't, good luck. The final verdict, Squirtle lacks depth, utility, and a real identity compared to the other water starters. Water types do match up decently defensively with a lot of the bosses, but their best matchup, Groudon, has permanent Sun. Squirtle is the bottom feeder of the water starters. Don't use it. Next up is Pikachu, who can either be a brave male or a hasty female. On a side note, I have a female cat named Pika, and I would describe her as hasty, so I'd say this personality test is pretty accurate on this one. According to the anime, Pikachu is the strongest Pokemon ever created, but in the mainline games, it tends to fall flat. Well, PMD is offering redemption, because Pika in this game is absolutely busted. Pika has a crazy useful learn set. It gets Thunder Wave right away, which lets you paralyze bosses. Paralyzed Pokemon in PMD will not attack for at least 1 turn, and potentially for a max of 3. This turns enemies into Professor X without the telekinesis. At level 13, Pikachu gets Quick Attack, which has 2-tile range, can hit through the ally in front of you, and functions perfectly in hallways. At level 26, Pika learns Thunderbolt, which hits all enemies adjacent to you. It also hits Ghost hiding in walls, which you wouldn't think would be useful, but it comes up surprisingly often in the later game dungeons. Suddenly, Pikachu is no longer just hallway pressure. It has localized AoE. Believe it or not, all moves that I mentioned are just part of a strong early stage. Level 34 is where it gets truly broken for Pikachu, learning Agility. Agility doesn't just make you faster, it gives your entire team more turns, and it stacks. You can use it again, and again, and again, until the enemy never moves. And just when that wasn't enough, at level 37, it gets Discharge. Discharge hits every enemy in the room, and is pretty much Electric Blizzard. Now let's recap what Pikachu has. Hallway control with Quick Attack, boss control with Thunder Wave, turn control with Agility, localized AoE with Thunderbolt, full room clearing potential with Discharge. This might as well be a checklist for how to beat PMD. Pikachu also gets Light Screen, which is one of the only reliable ways to reduce special damage in the entire game. Plus its ability Static, which can randomly paralyze enemies just for hitting you. In conclusion, Pikachu is one of the most complete starters in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It has control, damage, utility, and one of the most broken moves in the entire game. In terms of raw power, Pikachu is ridiculous. Luckily for Squirtle, he qualifies for our first bonus tier list. Squirtle may be at the bottom of the starter tier list, at least he scores slightly better in the fictional turtles tier list, landing in the A tier, right in between the coolest Ninja Turtle and Slow-Mo. Alright, let's talk about Evee. Only available to jolly females, she is one of the most misleading starters in the entire game. Because on paper, it looks broken. I apologize, but we will have to do some math. Starting with the damage formula. In the mainline game, super effective is 2x damage, and not very effective is 0.5x damage. In Mystery Dungeon, super effective is nerfed to 1.4, and not very effective is nerfed to 0.7x. But stab, still 1.5x, so hitting something neutrally with stab is often better than hitting it super effectively. That's already weird. Now let's add Evee. Adaptability takes stab from 1.5x to 2x, which means Evee is basically hitting everything like it's super effective. You can walk up to a rock type, hit it with tackle, and deal the same damage as a water type move. That completely breaks Pokemon logic. So Evee must be broken, right? Wrong. Evee has some fatal flaws that keep it from reaching its peaks. Dialga is one of the most important fights in the game, and it resists normal moves. So your everything hits like a truck strategy, now it hits like a shopping cart. And then there's the real problem. Evee is French, meaning she gets the runaway ability. I'm sorry, that's inappropriate. I apologize to my French listeners. The runaway ability means that if a partner Evee drops to low HP, you lose control. It just leaves. It'll sprint across the dungeon like it has somewhere to be. Straight into enemies, straight into range attacks, and straight into death. Like a lemming off a cliff. And lastly, Evee doesn't learn any ranged or room clearing moves naturally, and none that take advantage of adaptability. In fact, she doesn't learn very many good normal moves until takedown, and bleeding health is not a good strategy in this game. Eevee's real value comes after evolution. Evee can turn into Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon in the postgame. Eevee's IQ group is F, which actually has good exploration utility skills like Stare Sensor, which can locate stairs immediately when entering a room, and All-Terrain Hiker, which allows Evee to go on any tile. But overall, Eevee's just mid. They do exist, but only through abilities, like Flash Fire. Through this ability, Vulpix has a full fire immunity. And on top of that, the AI doesn't know how Flash Fire works, meaning they will still choose fire attacks against you. Looking at Vulpix learn set, there's an obvious standout, Flamethrower, which Vulpix learns naturally at level 24. This is the equivalent of having Oak give you a Rayquaza after the 3rd gym. Just too much power too early. The other good learn set moves are Quick Attack, Confuse Ray, and Imprison. You already know about Quick Attack, but what about the others? Confuse Ray never misses, lasts absurdly long, and turns enemies into complete idiots. This move is broken, and with huge power points, you'll be doing your best Mount Moon Zubat impression and annoyingly spamming it. But somehow, this is only the 2nd best status move for Vulpix. Imprison is better. Imprison turns every enemy into Metapod. Actually, it's worse, because Metapods can actually harden. Imprisoned enemies cannot move or attack for 5 turns. Leaving me to again ask, did no one playtest this stupid broken game? Vulpix's stats lead into this defensive support archetype. It lags behind most other fighter starters in offensive firepower, but its moveset along with superb defensive stats make Vulpix the perfect mage/support. Now let's talk TMs. There's only one you should really care about, and that's Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is great, acts like Dark-type Thunderbolt. Vulpix is also one of the strongest picks for dungeon efficiency, because of its IQ group G. This group includes Map Surveyor and Stair Sensor, which tells you where the stairs are, where the enemies are, when the floor is safe to rush, and today's lottery numbers. That last one was a lie, but the level of information is unbelievably powerful, especially in long dungeons and monster house maps. When Vulpix evolves into Ninetales, it learns Heat Wave, which we've already established is broken. In summary, Vulpix doesn't overpower the game. It outcontrols it. Vulpix is one of the most satisfying starters in the entire game, which justifies its high placement on this list. Meowth, like the previous normal type Evee, is defined by its abilities. And as a reminder real quick, if a Pokemon can have 2 different abilities in the mainline games, in Mystery Dungeon, it has both. No RNG, no rerolling, no guessing. Meowth has Pickup and Technician. Pickup gives you a chance to find an item every time you enter a new floor. This is useful, but by no means game breaking. It's nice, it's helpful, and it'll absolutely save your run at some point. We should all learn a lesson from Meowth about cleaning our environment. But that is a discussion for another day, because Pickup is not actually the ability that defines Meowth. That ability is Technician. Technician massively boosts the damage of low power moves. And in Mystery Dungeon's damage formula, move power matters way less than it does in the main games. Pickup and Technician is kind of like if Larry Bird was your garbage man before he went to the NBA, a good steward of the environment but ruthless on the court. Technician is crazy good. I don't know the exact cutoff, but I do know for a fact Payday, which has 8 base power, works with Technician. So anything at 8 base powers or lower should be good. And if you know anything about Mystery Dungeon, you know that multi-hit moves already take advantage of low power moves being buffed. Surely Meowth doesn't get access to an extremely OP stab multi-hit move, right? Right? Oh god, it gets Fury Swipe at level 14. Fury Swipes is insane for the reasons we just said, but it's not the only move that Meowth uses that takes advantage of Technician. It also gets Fake Out at level 9. Fake Out works like Quick Attack in this game, except it also has a 35% chance to flinch, with similar power. Then there's Bite. Low power? Check. 20% flinch chance? Check. An absurd amount of PP? Check. Learned at level 6? Why does it have this? This move is a steal, pick it up immediately. As for Slash and Night Slash, yeah, the crit chance looks good, but the power creeps too high, which kicks them out of Technician range. So skip them. Stick with Fake Out, Fury Swipes, and Bite. That is the core. Now let's talk about some TMs. Most normal types get crazy good TMs, and Meowth is no exception. It can learn Water Pulse, which is ranged and works with Technician, and Shockwave, which is ranged, never misses, and works with Technician. For AoE, you have Thunderbolt and Dark Pulse. These two are functionally identical except for typing. Just pick whichever one you need more. No Technician boost on them, sadly, but AoE damage is still AoE damage. Meowth does have an evolution, and when Meowth evolves, it gets access to Power Gem and Nasty Plot. Are these exciting? Not really, but also who cares? Meowth has everything it needs. Complaining about the evolution move pool at this point is like whining about dessert after a 5-course meal. The final verdict, Meowth is a Technician abuser, plain and simple. Low power moves, flinches, priority, massive PP, ranged coverage, it's all here. Normal types are good in the most Pokemon, but struggle into Ghost. Luckily, Meowth learning Bite early helps avoid Ghost bosses like Dusknoir wailing on you. But unfortunately, Meowth can't be the starter in this game. It can in Explorers of Darkness, but not in Explorers of Sky. So unfortunately, while Meowth has everything it needs, I have to deduct a couple points. But that doesn't change the fact that this thing is an absolute menace. Next is Chikorita, which is quiet for the senoritas and calm for the males. So like I already mentioned in Bulbasaur's section, all grass types get access to the good stuff. Bullet Seed, Giga Drain, and Energy Ball if you're still waiting to actually find Bullet Seed or you're a coward. So the real question is, what does Chikorita bring to the table? Razor Leaf at level 6 is good, but that's about it. Synthesis is actually nice early when your max HP is low, but as the game goes on, it becomes worse and worse until it's completely outclassed by Orange Berries. And yes, it would have been great if it healed the entire team, like Morning Sun or Moonlight. It does not. Reflect and Light Screen are good when they're your 4th or 5th option like on Pika, but when they're your plan A, they underwhelm. Magic Leaf magically manages to be worse than Razor Leaf, and then there's Body Slam, which is mid and not stab. The paralysis chance actually got nerfed from the main games down to a sad 15%, which makes it way less attractive. And then we get to the reason you'd ever consider using Chikorita at all. Aromatherapy. This is the move that sets Chikorita apart. Being able to heal your entire team's status conditions is genuinely useful, especially when the game decides to throw Perish Song at you. Evolution gives this Pokemon virtually nothing as well, but Chikorita's IQ Group H has some excellent support skills like Bodyguard, Fast Friend, increasing recruiting rates, Nature Giver for sharing berry effects team-wide. The catch? You don't really get those until later unless you're really grinding gummies early. Final verdict, Chikorita is really not good as your main starter. It is however better as a partner, and that's because of aromatherapy. Your leader is the one eating status effects, and you can't use aromatherapy if you're asleep or paralyzed. Letting your partner handle the supporting role actually makes a lot of sense. But even then, Chikorita is living off a single move, in a game that rewards offense above anything else. It's bad and just outclassed. And in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, that's a death sentence. Okay, time for Cyndaquil for the timid and calm. If you look up Cyndaquil's level up list, its most obvious competition is Charmander. And that comparison is unavoidable. Their stats are virtually identical. Both Pokemon learn Flamethrower in the mid-30s and get Smokescreen early. Cyndaquil even starts with it. So on paper, these two look very similar, but the differences matter. Charmander leans heavy into melee variety. It has a lot of close ranged options, and while that's not ideal, at least there's some flexibility. Cyndaquil, meanwhile, gets Quick Attack. Quick Attack is the real prize here. Priority is fantastic in Mystery Dungeon, and the main reason why you would consider Cyndaquil. Swift also never misses, and that's nice, but once you get Flamethrower, Swift immediately falls off a cliff. So realistically, Quick Attack is doing all the work. But the TM situation is where things go downhill fast. Cyndaquil's TM options are bad. Like, shockingly bad. Presumably because it stands on all fours. Your only notable TM option is Aerial Ace. And even that's pointless because Swift already exists. So Aerial Ace really only adds a little bit of coverage. And let's talk about some of his bait moves, like Rollout. Rollout sounds amazing. The description says it can hit up to 4 or 5 times in one turn, and the damage increases with each hit. But the accuracy is much worse than something like Bullet Seed. This effectively makes Rollout a worse version of Rock Blast. And you know evolution doesn't save it. While Cyndaquil is very similar to Charmander, Typhlosion is much worse than Charizard. All melee, all filler, all nothing special. And yes, the final verdict, Cyndaquil is Charmander with one more ranged option, and in PMD, the best strat is to hit enemies before they hit you. That's it. Everywhere else, Cyndaquil loses. Worse TM options, and worse evolution payoff. When it comes to final forms, Charizard completely outclasses Typhlosion. Having Quick Attack makes Cyndaquil a natural partner choice. I think it's probably a slightly better partner than Charmander, but for the main starter, I think Charmander has enough utility to beat out Cyndaquil as a primary option. So it sits here in B tier, and for those of you wondering, here's the animated Echidna tier list. Millie, Knuckles, Cyndaquil. Now for Totodile, who is jolly and or sassy. Totodile is just Squirtle with dentures. It does almost the same thing, and it uses the same trio of water type moves. So what does Totodile bring that the others don't? Totodile picks up Bite at level 13, and as we've established, that's already a pretty solid move. And that's about it for the positives. On the negatives, it doesn't learn a ranged move until level 43 with Hydro Pump. Rage stinks in the mainline games, and it still stinks here. Scary Face is decent, but not as good as Agility. Thrash is garbage, and Superpower is mega garbage. If you still haven't found Water Pulse by level 36, keep Water Gun. It has better PP and accuracy than Water Tail, which is impressively bad for a move that you learned that late. Outside of the big 3 TMs, Totodile's TM pool is fine. You get some decent coverage with Rock Slide, Iron Tail, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, and Shadow Claw, but none of them are too special. So yeah, at this point, Totodile, it's not looking great. Stat-wise, Totodile does have increased HP, attack, and special attack compared to other water starters. Damage is king in this game, and while Totodile with its move pool is technically worse than Squirtle's, almost all water Pokemon are going to be running Water Pulse and Blizzard anyway. But then you evolve, and suddenly everything changes, because Feraligatr learns Agility, and that one move flips the entire script. But other good starters don't need to evolve to get Agility. So you really need to ask yourself, is picking Totodile worth it just to get Agility after all the important fights? Totodile may be Squirtle with dentures, but it's still better than just being Squirtle. Okay, it's time. We have to talk about Phanpy. I'll be honest, Phanpy is adorable, but Phanpy is also suffering. Phanpy is one of the easiest rankings on this whole entire list, because there's no question it goes in the bottom tier. Phanpy's move pool is extremely limited early. Rollout is strong, but as we've established, misses too often to rely on. Phanpy is actually a pure ground, but can't learn any moves through level up, which is just embarrassing, especially in PMD when stab is more important than super effective. Phanpy, across level ups and TMs combined, learns exactly one move worth mentioning. The good news? You get it early at level 6. The bad news? It's Flail. Yes, Flail. The only other move that Magikarp can also learn. Now, to be fair, Flail is actually better in Mystery Dungeon than it is in the mainline games. Even at full HP, it hits for almost as much damage as Tackle, and as your HP drops, the damage ramps up pretty quick. But that's the last nice thing I have to say. Everything else is a complete dumpster fire. I've already explained why Rollout sucks, let's not reopen that wound. So there's really only one more thing worth mentioning, and that's Endure. And that's a classic beginner's trap. You'll think, I'll use Endure, drop to 1 HP, and then flail everything. Except Endure, along with Protect and Detect, has a 25% chance to fail. Unless you have the Concentrator status, which makes it never fail. It isn't worth playing the game around 1 HP. Unlike the mainline games, it lasts a few turns, which sounds nice until it fails at the exact moment you need it. If Endure fails, the enemy attacks, and you die. Phanpy dead, run over. Phanpy would actually greatly benefit from a normal dual typing because its best moves such as Double Edge and Takedown are normal. With a normal dual typing, Phanpy could have been a self-damaging glass cannon firing huge takedowns. But without it, it's just glass? Now let's look at the TMs. You get Iron Tail and Rock Slide. That's it. Yes, even after TMs, you still have an empty move slot. Unreal. The only ground type move Phanpy can even learn is Earthquake, which damages your teammates. And for some reason, Phanpy can't learn Dig, which would have absolutely saved it. Papa Donphan doesn't do much to help this boy. Donphan's big new offensive move is Fury Attack, which is good, except grass starters get a multi-hit move before evolving, Piplup gets one, Charmander gets one, Meowth gets one, and Bullet Seed is ranged. So using Phanpy just to get Fury Attack as Donphan is like waiting until 2 days after the exam to start studying. Now let's do the final math. Number of stab moves Phanpy can realistically use, 0. Number of range move Phanpy can use, 0. In Mystery Dungeon, that's weakness. The main story also throws water and grass enemies at you constantly, which punishes Phanpy's typing. In Phanpy's IQ group, Group E, gives very little dungeon awareness or utility. Just do not use Phanpy ever. And if you're thinking, but Phanpy is my favorite, I've said before, it's fun to play your favorites. It's fun to play what the personality gives you. This is the exception. Pick your second favorite instead. Phanpy isn't just bad, it actively makes the game worse. And for this reason, I'm not putting Phanpy in F tier. It is going in its own tier, PH tier. Luckily, Phanpy does better in the animated tier list, landing 1 spot ahead of Treetrunks. Next Pokemon. Treeko. This green lizard comes from the personality group Quiet and Hardy. And before we start, I'll get ahead of something. Yes, Bullet Seed, Giga Drain, Energy Ball TMs, yada yada yada. We've been here before. But Treeko is built different. Treeko actually learns Absorb, Mega Drain, and Energy Ball by level up. Late, yes, levels 46 and 51. But still, no TMRNG required. And honestly, it doesn't matter, because Mega Drain is absolutely crazy. Mega Drain is way better than Giga Drain. Treeko gets Mega Drain at level 26, and it's the best draining move out there. Sure, it's a bit weaker, but once again, damage differences matter far less in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. What does matter is power points, and Mega Drain has a ton of it. Before that, Absorb at level 6 is more than good enough to mess around with. Treeko's sustain game is online basically immediately. But let's be real here. That's not why Treeko is crazy good. Treeko is great because it gets Quick Attack and Agility. Treeko gets Quick Attack at level 11 and Agility at level 31. That's an absurd toolkit. Quick Attack lets Treeko chip in some damage safely, finish enemies, and steal turns. Agility bends the game's action economy over its knees. These two moves are crazy good. And because of that, basically every other move Treeko could run becomes irrelevant. Iron Tail, Aerial Ace, Drain Punch, Rock Slide. Some of those are good, but who cares? Treeko already won. After evolution, it gets access to Focus Blast and Dragon Pulse. Both are ranged, both are good, but let's be honest, do you need them when Bullet Seed exists? No. Lastly, Treeko also naturally learns Detect, so you can make yourself completely invulnerable and then start to heal up with the draining abilities. The final verdict. Treeko has always been one of the best picks in Mystery Dungeon. MD1, MD2, beginners, experts, it doesn't matter. And this time around, it absolutely earns that reputation. As a starter, it's elite. As a partner, it's elite. Treeko doesn't need gimmicks, it doesn't need evolution, it doesn't need luck, it just wins runs. As a side note, picking Treeko as your partner also gives some good story synergy. Because in the future, you were human with a Grovyle partner, and now in the past, you subconsciously found a Treeko to partner up with. I also thought that Grovyle was the future version of my Treeko partner during my first playthrough. I was shocked the next time I played, and I picked Mudkip as the partner, and there wasn't like a Marsh Stomp stealing the time gears. Time for the Fire Chicken Torchic, who's rash hardy. Like every fire type we've talked about, Torchic lives and dies by flamethrower. That's your range stab, that's your bread and butter, that's the plan. The problem? Torchic doesn't learn it until level 43, and that's painfully late. You can get flamethrower earlier via TM, assuming RNG smiles on you, but naturally learning it late already puts Torchic behind the other fire starters. Before learning flamethrower, there are only really 2 moves that stand out. The first one being Quick Attack, and that immediately makes Torchic a partner candidate. Unfortunately, it puts Torchic into direct competition with Vulpix and Cyndaquil. So let's compare. Vulpix has Confuse Rain and Prison. Cyndaquil has Smokescreen. Torchic has Mirror Move, I guess? Mirror Move allows you to reflect the damage that just hit you, which can result in some absolutely ridiculous moments in monster houses. I mean, imagine Torchic walks into monster houses and they both take turns absolutely getting their attacks reflected off of them. And in one turn, every enemy's gone. It negates damage. It can be overall a pretty good choice. Focus Energy sounds good on paper. It guarantees crits for a few turns, but it doesn't last long enough to meaningfully outperform just attacking normally. That's a wasted move slot every time. So before evolution, Torchic badly loses to Vulpix, Charmander, and Cyndaquil. Torchic, to be fair, is available in all the games, and Vulpix isn't in Time and Darkness. So in those versions, the Vulpix competition disappears, but the problem doesn't. Evolution is where Torchic finally shows up. Once Torchic evolves, things finally start to look respectable. The biggest pickup? Stab Double Kick. Double Kick always hits twice, not 2 to 5 times like Fury Swipes, but the accuracy is much better, which makes real damage output comparable with other multi-hit staples. It's pretty consistent and pretty reliable. It gives Blaziken a strong identity. You also get access to Focus Blast, unlike Charizard or Typhlosion, which is a huge deal. Range Stab Focus Blast is legitimately powerful. However, unlike better fire types, it doesn't get Heat Wave. Lastly, Torchic's IQ group is C, which is middle of the road. It won't help or hurt much. Finally, Torchic is meh as a starter and so-so as a partner. Its biggest issue is timing. Torchic's real power comes after evolution, and even then it still doesn't reach the heights of Charizard, or our last fire Pokemon on this list. It's playable, it's functional, but it's probably never going to be exceptional. Torchic isn't bad, it just spends too much of the game trying to catch up. And in Mystery Dungeon, that's typically not very good. Lonely, which is a pretty bad personality combination, if you ask me. I'm not going to waste your time hyping up Water Pulse, Ice Beam, and Blizzard again. You know the drill. Those are the big three. So let's get straight into Mudkip's problem. Just like Totodile, Mudkip doesn't get Bubble, and that hurts. But unlike Totodile, Mudkip at least tries to compensate immediately. Mudkip's first level up move is Mud Slap, and this move is sneaky good. Mud Slap guarantees an accuracy drop when it hits. No chance, no RNG, just whiff city for the enemy, baby. Dropping accuracy can be consistent whether you get hit in short fights, but in long battles, especially bosses, you will absolutely start to feel the difference. Stack a few of these drops and suddenly attacks just don't hit. It's a legitimate survivability tool. After that, Water Gun becomes your mainstay until you either find Water Pulse or hit level 42 for Hydro Pump. If you still haven't found Water Pulse by level 33, you might look at Whirlpool, but just don't. You're trading power and accuracy for a 10% immobilization chance. 10% is nothing, stick to Water Gun every time. Mudkip's bad moves are also bad in the normal games. Bite is terrible, always has been, always will. You deal more damage just attacking normally. TM wise, outside of the big three, Mudkip doesn't really get much. Everybody gets Iron Tail, most people get Rock Slide. But Mudkip does naturally learn some good utility moves, including naturally learning Protect and Endeavor. Endeavor is a boss killer, but unfortunately it isn't learned until level 42. But once unlocked, the huge HP of late game bosses gets replaced by your own HP, effectively making this a 400 plus damage move when used on bosses. Once Mudkip evolves, things get pretty interesting. The ground typing now gives it a resistance, and stab ground can be pretty useful. The final verdict, Mudkip is better than Totodile even before evolution, thanks to Mudslap giving it real utility early. It has some genuinely nice tools, but not enough to compete with Agility's raw power. So the choice comes down to timing. Before evolution, Mudkip is significantly better than Totodile. After evolution, Totodile probably wins a little bit with agility, but evolution is not nearly important. And remember, there's still one more water starter, one that brings both tools both early and late. Mudkip is pretty good. It's solid, thoughtful, and tactical, just not quite top tier in a world where the action economy reigns supreme. And now we get to Skitty, who's for naive females. I'm just a girl. Skitty is one of the most deceptively broken starters in the game. Skitty's ability, Normalize, makes every move you use become normal type, which means every move gets stab damage. And Skitty being a normal type also means it has access to a huge variety of TMs. Teach Skitty Blizzard, now it's Stab Blizzard. Teach Skitty Thunderbolt, now it's Stab Thunderbolt. It's ridiculous. And Skitty has broken support moves, such as Attract. Skitty is always female, and almost every gendered boss in the game is male, meaning that Attract can neutralize 70% of bosses. And that's not the only utility Skitty gets. It also gets great moves like Sing and Heal Bell with level up. Its other ability, Cute Charm, has a 30% chance of being activated when its opponent attacking with Skitty next to her. This is effectively a free Attract and a better version of the static ability. Skitty also levels up fast and has some of the best stats in the game. This allows her to use stab room clearers to hit hard. Skitty is IQ Group G, meaning top tier dungeon navigation from Map Surveyor and Stair Sensor. Combine this with powerful stab coverage with efficient pathing, and Skitty runs dungeons like a speedrunner. The only major issue, normal attacks do little damage to Ghost, and Primal Dialga resists normal, but none of that matters when you're raining down this variety of stab attacks with this utility. If you've ever watched my run of PMD with Magikarp and Feebas, Skitty is pretty much the steroided up version of Dory, and it's absolutely broken. Twig is up next. And at this point, there's no reason to keep hyping up the busted grass TMs. You know the deal. So let's ask the real question. What does Turtwig offer besides these 3 TMs? And the answer is nothing. No coverage, no range, just Iron Tail, and it's melee, so who cares? To be fair, Turtwig isn't entirely useless. It gets Absorb early and Mega Drain at level 25, similar to Treecko. It also gets Razor Leaf at level 13, giving it range pressure much earlier than Bulbasaur. This thing also gets Synthesis, so it's kind of like a better Chikorita, but unfortunately, that means that if Chikorita is a pizza sitting in a dumpster, then Turtwig is a gas station pizza that has been out for 3 days. Like, I'd rather have the one that isn't actively being eaten by raccoons, but Papa Murphy's is like right across the street. So why would I choose either? Turtwig doesn't truly separate itself until after it evolves, and the real draw here is Rock Polish. Rock Polish boosts the user's speed for 2 levels for a few turns. And yes, it is good. But as we've said before, having a good evolution doesn't maketh the Pokemon. Turtwig is playable, but when Bulbasaur and Treeko exist, fine just isn't good enough. Consider other grass starters first, then maybe Turtwig, but yes, still before Chikorita. Chimchar, the naive-ish imp Pokemon. Once again, Chimchar shows up to fix everything that Torchic got wrong. That works wonders in the main series, but does it carry over to Mystery Dungeon? The short answer is mostly yes. Let's start with a level up move pool, because it's immediately more appealing. Like other fire types, Chimchar eventually learns Flamethrower for range stab, learned at level 41 or earlier via TM. Nothing new here. But the real crown jewel of Chimchar's kit is something Torchic has to wait until it evolves to get. Fury Swipes. Multi-hit moves are king in Mystery Dungeon, and Chimchar gets one early. No stab unfortunately, but that's the price you pay. Even without it, Fury Swipes gives Chimchar strong, reliable, multi-hit damage long before Torchic can keep up. It's got some okay supporting moves. Nasty Plot looks exciting until you remember 2 things. 1, stat up moves are weaker here than the main games, and 2, a lot of Chimchar's best moves, and infernames for that matter, are physical. So Nasty Plot ends up being more theory than practice. Slack Off on the other hand is legitimately excellent. It's single target, sure, but at higher levels can provide consistent healing that absolutely dunks on Synthesis, especially in clear weather. On the TM side, Chimchar has everything Torchic does and more. Iron Tail, but it's still bad. Brick Break, slightly more interesting. Grass Knot, situationally useful against water types, but just watch out for light Pokemon absolutely tanking its damage. But here's the big moment. Chimchar doesn't have Quick Attack. Torchic's main selling point was Quick Attack, right? But actually, Chimchar has an equivalent. U-Turn. Via TM, U-Turn is basically Bug-type Quick Attack. Priority hit and run, incredible utility. If you get your hands on this TM, Chimchar instantly deletes Torchic's biggest advantage. Yes, finding specific TMs can be annoying, unless you've got Wonder Mail help, but let's be fair, Torchic doesn't get Quick Attack until level 28. Either way, you're waiting. After evolution, Infernape ends up in a similar place to Blaziken. They both get the same stab fighting type moves. Everything else, it's the same melee junk, but it still stays under the smoke screen partners. Okay, we got one last water starter, and they saved the best for last with Piplup, whose personality is impish or quirky. Alright, yes, the big 3, blah 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 blah, you know the deal. So let's skip straight to what matters. Piplup is one of only 2 starters that gets Bubble very early, which immediately puts it into direct competition with Squirtle. Totodile and Mudkip exist too, but they're pretty much playing different games. And as I said before in the Squirtle section, Bubble is basically the only thing Squirtle has going for it. But Piplup has something way better, Fury Attack, which is Squirtle's career ender. If there's one move that should, at the very least, completely erase Squirtle from consideration, it's Fury Attack. Yes, it's melee, but you already know the rule. The only melee moves worth using are multi-hit moves or ones with absurd PP. Fury Attack checks the boxes that actually matter. And if you somehow need even more power points, Peck is right there too, and Flying is a crazy good offensive type. No nonsense to be found here. At this point, Squirtle, you don't have any arguments left. Go back to the trash can. As I said before, Piplup, being a bird, can learn some pretty good flying moves. Piplup learns Drill Peck and can learn Aerial Ace and Pluck. Just ignore all of them and stick with Peck. Yes, it's weaker, but the power points are enormous, and at higher levels, the difference barely matters. And once Ice Beam and Blizzard enter the picture, Peck eventually gets phased out anyway. Finally, when Piplup evolves into Empoleon, it gets a broken typing with Steel and Stab Metal Claw. But Metal Claw isn't even the best move it gets. It gets Flash Cannon, which is a ranged stab steel move. This puts Empoleon up with Charizard as one of the best fully evolved starters. As a final verdict, Piplup is the best water starter of the four. It makes Squirtle completely irrelevant, competes favorably with Mudkip's utility, and avoids Totodile's painful early game. Piplup is clean, the attacks are consistent, and it makes the water starter choice much easier. Piplup just has slightly less than utility than Mudkip, but it's also stronger and has better attacking stats, making it the top water starter. Alright, time for Shinx. Shinx is Pikachu's shadow, and not in a cool way. So in Explorers of Sky, they finally introduced a second starter to challenge Pikachu. On paper, it looks like there could be some rivalry here. In reality, this is less of a rivalry and more of a public execution. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way first. Shinx only gets access to Thunderbolt and Shockwave via TM. That's not a point in its favor, that's just the electric dex. That's terrible. Shinx doesn't even get a stab electric move until level 17, mega terrible. And that move is Spark, which to be fair, has good power and decent power points, pretty accurate, which is nice. For a melee move, it's reliable. But of course, Toonsoft couldn't let it be good. So they cut the paralysis chance in half. Spark's para rate is a sad 15%. Shinx does get Bite before that, which is fine. Not amazing, not stab, but serviceable. Here's the real issue though. By the time Shinx reaches level 17, Pikachu is already committing war crimes. Pikachu has Thundershock, Quick Attack, Thunder Wave. And that's not even getting into what comes next. After Spark, Shinx learns Roar and Swagger. Wow, incredible, thrilling stuff. Then comes Crunch, which we've already established is worse to Bite, so congratulations, you got a downgrade. Thunderfang looks tempting thanks to the flinch chance until you realize it's 11% less accurate than Spark. I'll take the consistency every time, unless it's Bullet Seed. I love you, Bullet Seed. Scary Face is here too, but just in case you forgot, it's pretty mid. Single target, shaky accuracy, not worth it. You then have to wait until Shinx's final level up move to see anything remotely exciting. Discharge at level 41. Room-wide electric damage, finally, except Pikachu learns it 4 levels earlier. And by the time Shinx hits level 41, Pikachu already has Thunderbolt and Agility, and has probably beaten several bosses just for fun. Add quicker level up and overall superior stats, Pikachu is just electric mogging Shinx. We mentioned that Shockwave and Thunderbolt are in Shinx TM pool, but after that there's not much. You get Thunder Wave, which you actually might want because there's nothing else, and Iron Tail. Why does everything get Iron Tail? And after evolution, it's a cruel joke, unless you're a fan of Hyper Beam and Giga Impact, in which case, I'm sorry, but you probably need to be playing a different game. Lastly, the Intimidate ability is good, but that is negated by the fact that it also has Rivalry. So if you have a male Shinx, you are doing pretty good damage to every male boss, but they're also hitting you for insanely strong, which is just not worth the trade-off. Final verdict, players in Time of Darkness, you aren't missing out on anything, because Shinx is everything, Pikachu isn't. Slow to start, no early utility, worse timing, worse payoff, and worse ceiling. And that lands Shinx pretty low. Munchlax has no personality because you can't pick it as a starter. With Skitty taking the throne thanks to normalize committing war crimes, that leaves Meowth as Munchlax's main competition. So where does Munchlax land in comparison? The short answer is it's interesting, but probably worse. Munchlax's level pool is really a kiddie pool. Munchlax begins with 4 moves, and only one of them is actually good. Tackle. Yes, Tackle. Metronome is funny for sure, but this game gets brutal fast, and gambling your run on maybe I roll Heat Wave is not a strategy. Amnesia, come on, you already know better at this point. And then comes Lick, which is fine. You'll probably stick with Lick for a while, just because there's simply nothing better until the TMs show up. Munchlax does, however, learn one super interesting move. Recycle sounds incredible. Infinite TM usage, amazing. But that's a lot to manage when the other Pokemon just delete everything. And also, you have to do some sort of convoluted setup to even get your partner to use Recycle. After that, it's mostly stuff we've already roasted. Body Slam, worse than Tackle due to power points. There is a newcomer Swallow. You get 20 HP after 1 stockpile, 40 after 2, and 80 after 3. That's 4 turns and 2 move slots to do worse than an Oranberry. Not worth it. Roll out. Please roll out of here. By the end of the level up list, you're just kind of left with Tackle and Lick. Compare that to Meowth's Fake Out, Fury Swipes, Bite. But Munchlax does kind of redeem itself in the TM pool, because the TM list is absurd. Meowth's TM list is really good, getting Water Pulse, Thunderbolt, Shadow, Dark Pulse, Shockwave. Munchlax adds to that, adding Ice Beam, Blizzard, and Flamethrower. It gets the Big Water 3, plus the Big Fire 1. You also get Psychic, Rock Slide, and Brick Break, but they're melee, so you shouldn't really care. The catch, unlike Meowth, Munchlax needs TMs to function. Meowth just needs them to become even better. Evolving into Snorlax gives you Focus Punch, Focus Blast, which is good, but when you already have this many amazing TMs, it's hard to feel excited about one more. So Meowth versus Munchlax. Which normal type is better? Meowth probably gets better level up moves. Munchlax gets slightly better TM moves, and then you add in abilities, and Technician is absolutely busted. Munchlax getting Thick Fat is pretty good as well. Even with the room-wide clearing moves, Meowth still comes on top. With our final bonus tier list, we have the Fat Children tier list, where Munchlax sits in B tier with Josh Peck and number 2. Okay, one more Pokemon left, and I know the furries in chat are going to get excited for this one, because it's Riolu. Let's be real, Riolu is only in Explorers of Sky because people would not shut up about it. Every Mystery Dungeon forum in Time and Darkness was literally just, quote, how do I start as Riolu? Even though literally every guide said you couldn't. Same story with Evee, by the way. People were furious when it was removed from the starting roster. So eventually, Chunsoft caved, and honestly, fair enough. But popularity doesn't equal power. So how does Riolu perform actually? Riolu right out the gate starts with Quick Attack. That alone makes it instantly want to be a partner, and for good reason. Priority that early is fantastic, especially in places like Mount Bristol, where getting an extra hit before the enemy can move can absolutely save you. Unfortunately, that's where the excitement slows down, because Riolu has a very short level up list. Riolu's level up move pool is tiny, and the only other 2 moves really worth talking about are Force Palm, which has a chance to paralyze and is stab, and Reversal, works like Flail, solid base damage that ramps up hard as your HP drops. Reversal does have stab and the possibility of super effective hits, which is nice, but it's also less accurate than its normal type equivalent. Lastly, just like Phanpy, Riolu learns Endure, but it's much less of a disaster because Riolu actually gets the Concentrator status. That means you can make Endure hit 100% of the time, making it act as virtual invincibility. That really puts Phanpy to shame, but realistically, what doesn't put Phanpy to shame? All of Riolu's other moves are okay. Counter, Feint, Screech, Copycat. You don't need me to explain why these are bad. On the TM side, there are really only 2 you care about before evolution. Focus Blast and Drain Punch. Drain Punch is especially nice since its healing is usually more valuable than Force Palm's Paralysis chance at similar damage. Beyond that, it's the usual melee pile. Rock Slide, Brick Grape, Shadow Claw, Iron Tail. Why does everything get Iron Tail? So at this point, Riolu's just fine. Not great. Not terrible, just okay. Riolu's evolution changes everything, because when it evolves, you get Lucario. And Lucario's move pool is absurd. A single visit to the Electivire shop opens floodgates. Dark Pulse, Extreme Speed, Dragon Pulse, Bone Rush, Aura Sphere. You can hunt down Water Pulse TMs, Shadow Ball TMs, Psychic. That's a pretty impressive list. Now the final verdict. Just like Totodile and Turtwig, Riolu really shines after evolution. The difference is Riolu is the only fighting starter, and Riolu's move pool is genuinely elite. Almost every single boss in the game is weak to fighting, and if you want a fighting type, or you just really like Riolu, you can absolutely make it work. But here's the key advice. Use Riolu as a partner. Quick Attack right out of the gate is a huge deal from early on. And Riolu's early utility matters way more when it's backing you up than leading the charge. So there you have it. This is the list of all the starters in the Explorer series. If you think I got something wrong, let me know in the comments below, but try to be respectful. I have thin skin. If you are still here, consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you really like the content, consider supporting on Patreon, which I'll have linked below.